Hey everybody, 7 o'clock. It's time for grandstanding. Get your popcorn, your favorite beverage, call a friend, tell them it's time to grandstand. It's Tuesday night with Mother Teresa. Come on everybody, let's join in for tonight's topic. Don't forget to call your friend. Don't forget to put it on your Facebook or whatever media that you're watching me. Let's call somebody else. Let somebody else know that it's time to grandstand on tonight. Well, hello there, grandstanders. This is Mother Teresa. I am so glad to be with you all on another Tuesday night at 7 o'clock, or whenever you may be watching this. You may be watching the live a little bit later on. Whenever you're watching it, just know that I am so glad to have you all for another episode of Grandstanding. Some of you all are watching it live on Facebook. Some of you all are watching the replay on Facebook or maybe even YouTube. Whatever platform you're watching it on, I just want to thank you all for tuning in. All right, so let's jump right in it. On tonight, we have a topic that I discussed on Monday during my Monday morning motivation, and that's about being kind to one another. So you heard that deep sigh. You heard that deep breath that I just let out. Okay. And I did that because this has been a very troubling, heavy last couple of days. But, and I have to say but I know that everything is going to be okay. So if you're watching me, and I'm not sure where you may be watching me from, but again, welcome. We're going to talk about kindness. We're going to talk about some strategies that we can not only use for ourselves, but that we're going to use for our children. For those, again, as I almost stated, I'm not sure where you're watching me from, but if you've been watching and paying attention to the news, you know that we had a tragic incident, situation that happened in our community. I'm not reporting the news. I'm just sharing with you all what has happened that has not only been on our local news, but it's been on the national news as well. We had an incident that happened. Hello there. We had an incident that happened between two students, two middle-aged students, where it involved gun violence. And during that violent altercation, there was a loss of a young life. And I say there was a loss of a life, but really, when you think about it, two families have been tremendously impacted by the actions of this incident. And so we're going to talk about that tonight. We're going to talk about not necessarily the incident that happened where the young student lost her life, but we're going to talk about how that possibly could have been prevented. We're going to talk about how some different strategies about learning how to be kind to one another, how we can use and how we can teach our children to be kind. Okay, so I'm going to flip this. I started off by telling you basically what had happened, but we're going to flip it because we want to end and go on a positive note, okay? So we're going to talk about being kind. We're going to talk about how we can help our children to understand that being kind is what the Bible tells us. We teach our children to be kind to one another because it is the right thing to do. We teach our children about how to walk away from incidents or walk away from situations that may not end well. And so, especially in a world where we see a lot of our adults behaving badly, some of this is for us. Because let me just tell you, when we come home, my daughter told me that is my word, where I say, just let me tell you, or let me tell you. So that is something that I say, just let me tell you about this. So one of the things, and I don't know why my situation, okay, there it is. I'm trying to make sure that I can see who is responding to me so I can have a way of talking back to you and saying hello everybody that's here. So I've got that situation over there done. So most of the time I am not a news watcher. I say that most of the time that what is happening in this grand big old world, that my husband watches enough news for the both of us. And so he will tell me when there are things that I need to be aware of, which I am grateful for. And he keeps me up to speed. But when I know that I really need to tune in to certain things, then I'm watching the news. So going back to what I was saying, so many times when, especially lately, when we watch the news, it shows a lot of adults behaving badly. And with those adults behaving badly, what we have to remember that we have to, okay, thank you. My honey is here. My honey helps me so much. And of course he's saying don't. But I'm so grateful for my honey. Honey, I love you. That's what it's all about. I'm talking about kindness, you all. I'm talking about how to show kindness one towards another. And when I tell you all, I am so very thankful for my husband of 40 plus years. My husband helps me. We help one another. And that's what, so let me just kind of go ahead and jump right into it. So when we're thinking and when we're talking about teaching our children how to be kind in a cruel world, I'm not just talking about kids, everybody. I'm talking about adults as well. So a lot of times we think that being kind just comes naturally. And let me just tell you all, it doesn't. It doesn't necessarily come naturally. We have to be able to teach our children how to be kind children. And in turn, those kind children hopefully grow up to be kind adults. We have to model being kind to them and for them and in front of them. And even though my husband kind of like whatever, I appreciate him. I appreciate him because he wants to see my best foot forward, me putting my best foot forward. And so I appreciate that. And I hope you all appreciate the people in your life that take the time to make sure that you are doing things well. When you're stepping out in public, that you have your best foot forward. When you're speaking, we help one another. My husband and I, when he's doing something, a class that he was taking, he was coming home and he was sharing with me certain things that helped me. So this is all about being kind and showing each other how to do it. But let me just also say this. Here I am again. Let me just also show this or say this. When you talk about being kind and being able to walk away from a conflict, let me just tell you, that shows strength and it shows courage. One of the things that, and I won't go ahead and I won't get into that. Let me just kind of jump on into my key talking points on tonight. Being kind isn't showing a sense of weakness. It is actually showing strength. Because what I need to show and what I need kids and adults to understand is that when you can be kind, when you can show empathy and compassion and comfort to others, sometimes people look at that and they look at that as a sign of weakness, but it's really not. It's really what we are teaching our children to have. What, I don't know if you've ever heard of the term emotional literacy, but kids cannot express, hello there, Miracle, and hello, Mama, and I definitely see my husband. I see Tanya. So hello, everybody. But let me just tell you, kids cannot express what they don't understand. We have to teach our kids to name the feelings that they are experiencing. You know, we know about being mad and being sad and being, angry and all of that, but teach them the other words about feeling frustrated, about embarrassment, about fear, about, feeling a sense of betrayal. Teach your kids to not only name the emotion that they're feeling, but how to recognize it. And then what do they do with it? So if my son tells me, Mom, I'm feeling frustrated about the situation that's happening at work, I'm not just going to brush him off and say, well, you know what? Well, that just kind of comes with the territory of being an adult. No, I want to be able to sit down and talk with him and ask him, son, first of all, what does frustration look like? What does frustration feel like? What does your body feel like when you're frustrated? Now, son, tell me what you're planning on doing about the feeling of frustration that you have. Well, I'm helping him to learn how to deal with those emotions rather than just pushing them aside. And let me just tell you, parents, because I know it's parents on here. We have to teach them because they're not born with this. They're not born to be able to process all of this. And the other part of this, just like I just took the time and I share with you all what I would do with my son, we've got to start learning to speak life into our children at home. They cannot wait to get into the public and then somebody is trying to speak something over them or, whatever. We've got to learn to affirm our children at home. Learn to give them those positive words of affirmation while they're at home. And start young, you all. Don't wait till they're 20 years old or in their teens and start speaking those words of affirmation. Hey there, hello there, Shekinah. We've got to start when they're young, telling them who they are. First of all, you need to pray the blessings over your children. And I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. Learn to start praying what the word says over your children. Speak the blessings of God over your children. Don't just send them out into this world without you have blessed them. And if you haven't done it, it's not too late, okay? I share with you all that I knew that I had blessed my children and spoke words of blessings over them when they were children, but I went back a couple of weeks ago and I had to do a refresher, okay? And so it's nothing wrong with them. If you haven't been using words of affirmation over your children, it's not too late. Tell them who they are, but also give them powerful words before they go out the door. Maybe they're going to work like me, for adult children. And a lot of times I don't have time to do that unless my son calls me on the way to work. But your little children, speak those words of affirmation over them before they get out of the car. I love the fact whenever I am privileged to talk to Candace in the morning time before her boys get out of the car, I hear the words of affirmation that she says with her children. She's teaching them that they are strong, that they are powerful, that they are that they're smart, kids, all of those different things, you all. These are words of affirmation that you can speak over your children. So those are things I want you all to learn, that we need to learn to teach as parents. It's our responsibility to teach our children how to be kind in such a cruel and violent world. And the other thing I want to share with you all, I can talk about kindness, I can talk about cruelty, but the other part of that is that you've got to understand that we do not live in a world where there is peace all the time. Okay? A lot of times there is no peace. A lot of times there is conflict. So how do you deal with conflict? As an adult, what do you do? When you get upset with somebody, do you fly off the handle? Do you curse them out? Do you call them everything but a child of God? What do you do as an adult that your kids are watching you? How do you handle conflict? Okay? So do you first of all, conflict is normal, okay? Conflict is a normal part of life. Violence is not, okay? Conflict is normal. We're going to have conflict as long as we're in this world. We may not have violence, but we're going to have conflict. So every child needs to learn that there is a difference between the two. And how do you handle the differences in those? I teach you all the time about breathing, about stopping and taking a breath. When there is conflict, matter of fact, it's a thing called the STAR method. And in the STAR method, the first part of that is to stop and breathe. And STAR is STAR. Okay, so the first part of that S is to stop and breathe. The second part of that is to think about what's really bothering you. Why are you so in such an uproar? What is really going on? Okay, so think about what's bothering you. And then the A is to learn to act by using your words, not necessarily your fists, not necessarily things that are violent. Learn to act with using your words. And then, okay, my honey said there are 5 steps to conflict resolution. And if I'm not mistaken, let me click on here and see if he actually named them. He sure did. And then the last thing that I'm going to tell you about the STAR method is to resolve or walk away. So I'm going to read to you what he says. The 5 steps to conflict resolution. I got them right here, honey. It's the first, cool off. First, cool off. Use I statements. Practice listening. Take responsibility. And then find a solution. Honey, that's good. Let me tell you, we're giving it all to you all tonight. We're giving it all to you all. He gave you the 5 steps to conflict resolution, and I gave you the STAR method. He wrote it down. If somebody can put this in the chat, if not, I will definitely add it later. The STAR method is stop and breathe. The T is to think about what's really bothering you. The A is act with your words and not your fist. And the R is to resolve or walk away. We need to help our children understand the roots of the conflict. A lot of times is fear. You could be, could be shame, misunderstanding, and peer pressure. And let me just tell you, a lot of it for our kids that are school age, it is peer pressure. The other part of that is feeling embarrassed. And sometimes if you feel like you have been embarrassed by a situation, then a lot of times you want to come back and you want to retaliate, okay? You want to retaliate. But what we need to understand is, like my husband said about using iMessages, when you feel like that, you need to say, I feel hurt because, instead of you made me mad. So let's use those iMessages to actually have a conversation. Because when you put it and say, I feel hurt, you're really not projecting the blame on somebody else. You're actually taking ownership of that and says, I feel mad because, or I feel hurt because, and then you explain the situation. Well, first of all, that takes away the defense or putting that other person on in the defense mode. Okay, so that's a good way to start a lot of conversations when you are trying to work through something. Is say, I feel hurt, or I feel misunderstood because, so, whatever. Okay, and then we can talk about how we can fix this together. We can say, let's fix this together. Instead of, well, I'm just done with you. I'm just done with the situation. Don't bother me. Stay out of my face. No, let's talk about how we can fix this thing together. And what that will do is that will invite the other person to be able to try to work this thing out, okay? Um, and another thing I want to ask you all, because I heard this said, I heard this week. We had to provide grief counseling this week at one of the schools, and I heard this week, and I remember a conversation that we had in my household when my girls were growing up, and even when my son was growing up, is that when there is a situation or a conflict at school, and if someone pushes you or calls you a name, or they hit you, or any of those things where they do something to you, you know, as an educator, and also knowing that there are consequences, even if you try to defend yourself. I don't know if Net's on here, but there are consequences even if you try to defend yourself and you are not the instigator, but you are maybe the victim. There are consequences, you all. It's called DAEP and it's called ISS, especially if you are, or your school district has zero tolerance. So what we want to teach our kids is the strength in walking away. And you may say, oh no, Mother Teresa, I'm not teaching my kids to walk away, because if they walk away, that's when they may get, hit in the back of the head or whatever. And when I say walk away, even if you have to walk away back and away with your face still looking at the individual, I get tickled a lot of times on the movies, and I'm like, why are you turning your back on someone? Yes, Ned, there are consequences, daughter. Why are you turning your back on somebody and they have a gun, or they have a weapon or whatever? No, first of all, don't turn your back on anybody. But I can say try to exit the situation in a safe manner, because, again, there are consequences. So there is strength. There really is strength in being able to walk away or get away from a situation that could potentially become dangerous or violent. You can just say, listen, I'm not doing this today. We're not going to have this conversation. Let's talk. Now, this is an adult. Let's talk when both of us are not as angry. Let's talk when both of us kind of cool down a little bit. For a child that, you may say, listen, this situation is not worth me getting suspended. This situation is not worth me having to go to DAEP. I'm just not going to have this conversation. And a lot of times what you all will notice, and what kids will notice, is that as long as there is a crowd, it's going to keep going. It's going to keep going. But if you can sit there, I used to tell my girls all the time, when it was a he said, she said, or whatever, I would say, tell them, hold on. Let's go get that other person who you said this. Let's go get that other person, because I want to get their side of the story. And most of the time, that'll stop you right there, because they know that the person who's carrying this is not telling the truth. So I want you all to understand is that when you choose peace, when you choose to exit a situation rather than to engage in the conflict, that really shows a level of maturity, and it shows strength. Okay. And the other thing I want you all to understand is that as parents, the time just goes away so quickly. The 30 minutes really go by so fast. And I try not to keep you all that long, because, I'm trying to be mindful of your time. But I want you all to understand is that we have to, as parents, it's our responsibility to teach peace. It's our responsibility to teach our children, first of all, how to deal with conflict. Because if you're waiting for the schools to teach it, it's not going to happen. If you're waiting for the other children to teach them how to do it correctly, and maybe that's what I should have said, the schools, because let me just say, my department, we are the interventionists, and we do teach strategies on how to deal with conflict. And so let me rescind what I said, because we do try to teach that. But as a parent, that's really your responsibility. Okay. You are your kids' first teachers. So that is your responsibility. So teach your children at home about how to deal with conflict, because the children at school, they want to see a fight. They want to record it on their videos, on their phones. They want to post it for likes. They want to be the first person to post this thing, and they're going to be pushing you all to fight. They're going to be pushing you all to get into a scuffle. They're going to be pushing you all to get into it, because guess what? They want to record it. So you've got to be smarter than your kids, than the friends. The kids have to be smarter than their friends that's pushing them to do that. So parents, talk to your kids. If you haven't talked to them, tonight is a good time to start. Talk to them about how do they deal with conflict, how do they deal with anger, and then give them some tools, give them some strategies, teach them the STAR method, teach them the 5 steps of conflict resolution, teach them how to handle their anger. Yes, teach them how to handle their anger, because let me just say, I talked a whole lot from the viewpoint of your child or them being maybe the one on the receiving end. But parents, let's be honest. Sometimes it's our kids that are the ones that are being the bullies. And if they are being bullies, that's not good, because bullies get handled, okay? And so and there's always somebody that is bigger, badder, stronger than your child. So we don't want our children to be harmed in any way. So let's teach them not to be bullies, but we also want to teach them how not to be a victim. And I think we can do this by talking and about how to handle conflict, and also teaching them to be kind to each other. That was my statement for Monday, about teaching our kids to be kind to each other. And as an adult, we role model this by being kind to each other and by being kind to other people, and allowing our children to see us doing that. Now, let me just tell you, there are some things that I would like to share with you all. I have a couple of things that I'm going to probably put in the chat a little bit later, maybe for the replay, about a family peace plan. Because I've shared with you all some different things, the STAR method, the 5 steps to a resolution. So I'm going to share with you all some things for the viewers that are coming back and watching the replay, and for those that are on here tonight. I'm going to share with you all some things that hopefully will help you all. And let me just ask you all before we leave on tonight, for those of you all that are listening here, I try to give relevant information and conversation. And of course, this is grandstanding. So I talk about the grand things that's happening, but sometimes the grand things that's happening, it may not seem so grand. It definitely doesn't seem like the situation or the topic that I'm talking about on tonight is a grand topic. But it is a topic that I feel like we must address in the day in which our society is in the chaos that's in our nation from the top down. We need to know, when our backs are up against the wall, what do? Do we come out swinging, or do we come out with trying to find a solution for peace? And I'm going to tell you, it is imperative that we find the solution for peace. And in doing so, first of all, the Word of God says, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So I cannot be vengeful. I cannot hold a vendetta against somebody else, okay? The Bible teaches me that I'm supposed to love. I'm supposed to have compassion. I'm supposed to share and to represent Christ well. And I do my very best to do that daily. And I'm going to ask you all to do this along with me. And I'm not saying that you're not, but I will say that in today's time and the what's going on, what's happening in our world, you all, it is affecting our children, even our babies. When you are up, your emotions are raw. When your emotions have been shattered, your babies feel it, okay? And when your babies feel it, they know something is wrong with mommy and daddy. So we've got to be kind. We've got to make sure that we are being the good people so we can model this in front of our children. Not everybody can lose control. Not everybody can have a heart that is callous. Not everybody can do that. We've got to show love one towards another. And we've got to be that soft landing space when our kids need us. And not just necessarily our kids, but we've got to be that soft landing space when anybody needs us. Because that's what kindness is all about. One of the things, an initiative that that we have at our district is the Start with Hello. And basically the Start with Hello, what we want to make sure, or what we want to ensure, is that there is no child that ever feels alone. If we see a child, if a child is at the in the lunchroom, and if they're sitting by themselves, or if they're at the playground and they're sitting by themselves, the Start with Hello initiative is for another student to go over and encourage or invite that other student to come and sit with them, or to come and play with them, to just be a part of something so they're not alone. And you all, we're doing this and teaching our children this, okay? So I'm going to encourage you all to do this exact same thing. When you see people in certain situations, it takes nothing to be kind to another individual. It takes nothing. It takes nothing to give a person a smile, because sometimes that may be the only smile that that person has received for that day. It takes nothing for us to give a person a compliment, a compliment. And you can compliment them on anything. You can compliment them, oh, hey, I like your glasses. Those are nice. I like your hair. I like your earrings. I went through the drive-through and there was a young man. He was probably a high school student, but he said, Miss, I like your earrings. Okay. And I was like, of course, I had to feel and see which earrings I was wearing. But I said, thank you, sir. And so be kind to each other. Be kind to each other. It doesn't take anything away from you to be kind to someone else. So listen, you all, I hope that this was helpful to you all on tonight. Again, I try to give you all words of encouragement, but I try to just share with you all my heart. And again, like I said, this may not have been a grand conversation, but it's a necessary conversation. So in our world today, you all, we need to teach kindness. We need to teach that our world is a kind place for our people to be in. We should make sure that we are exercising kindness, okay? Kindness. And that's what we do over here, you all. We exercise kindness. So thank you all so very much, grandstanders. And as we are leaving for the night, I just challenge you all to be kind to one another. That's somebody's tagline. I can't remember whose it is. My husband probably knows. It's somebody on the news. But be kind to one another, okay? Share the goodness of God. Share your heart with somebody between now and the next time we see you all. And I know that you're going to have testimonies. I know that you're going to have words of wisdom that you can share with somebody. Again, sometimes all a person needs is a little bit of encouragement to let them know that they can make it through the day. Because I'm going to tell you all, sometimes I have to take a breath myself. Sometimes we roll out of bed and we start our day without commanding our morning. And because we don't command our morning, sometimes our day may get a little bit difficult. And because we're having a difficult day, we're not at our best behavior. We're not smiling the way that we should be smiling. We're not feeling the very best. And sometimes it only takes a smile to change your day. And you all have that smile. You all have that smile, but not only do you have the smile, but you have the words of encouragement. And let me just tell you, it doesn't have to be something grand. It doesn't have to be something profound that you share with somebody. Sometimes it's just a word of encouragement. Say, hey, you can make it. You can make it through the day. Or, hey, just hang on in there. You all don't know how many times I tell people, hang in there. And like Sister Henderson would say, tie a knot in it and just continue to hang on in there. But hang on in there because you can make it. Okay, you can make it. Things may look difficult. Things may look bleak. Things may look like they're never going to get better. Things may look like, hey, I'm never going to come out of this rut. But hang in there because you will. Okay, you will. So in the meantime, listen, you all have a great night. You all have a great week. And as my sister Cynthia would say, good night, grandstanders. And I will see you all on next week. And I just want to say before I leave on tonight, to everyone who wished my mom a happy birthday, thank you all on her behalf. Mom says thank you. I'm quite sure we had a grand time. We had a marvelous time. I shared with some people on YouTube were wishing you a happy birthday. And I shared with them, I said, we had a wonderful time. So for the ones who wish my mom a happy birthday, I'm saying thank you. She is saying thank you. So my YouTube people who are watching, thank you. You know who you are that wish my mom a happy birthday. Grandstanders, y'all have a great night, and I will see you all on the next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Good night, Miracle. Thank you for joining. Good night, grandstanders. Y'all have a blessed week. Thank you, Ned.